welcome to Sanctuary. And today we've got a talk. So last week we spoke about love and the 4 different kinds of love without encroaching too much on what you're actually going to speak about. So today's is a continuation of that. What are some of the ways we can act that are contrary to love, that maybe go against love? So to speak to us today about that, we have got Iyerin and Helen. And I won't take up any more of their time. Very welcome, Iyerin and Helen.
Thank you, Nikita. So welcome to everybody here once again. We're just going to talk about love as it is meant to be and how it is made in the image and likeness of God. So this is a continuation from last week where we spoke about the 4 kinds of love, which Helen would give you a quick recap on.
So is there an echo? No?
There isn't, no, it's okay.
That's fine. Okay, great. So last week we looked at the 4 different types of love. So Naveen Chetan brought us through all of that. So the 4 different types of love are eros, storge, philia, and agape. Agape being the unconditional love. Eros, storge, and philia, if you guys remember, both of them, or the 3 of them, in and of themselves are good, but they can be corrupted. But they can also be raised. The 3 of them can be raised to agape. So what do you need to love someone? We know about the different types of love, but what do you need to love someone?
The answer is our body. So if you really think about it, anybody you've ever loved, anybody you've ever known, anything you've ever enjoyed doing, ever loved doing, the food you've loved eating, you would have never experienced that if you didn't have your body. So anything and everything you've ever loved and ever known is through your body. And similarly, the only way anybody else has ever known you is through your body as well. So anything that has been revealed to you has been through your body, and you yourself reveal yourself through your body. So that means there is something to be revealed, right, Helen?
Yeah. So what do we reveal through our body? We reveal our soul. So the church teaches that we are not only the material physical body or the spiritual body. We are a composite of both the body and the soul. Our body, our physical self, makes visible what is invisible. So you guys can see the CCC quoted there. But does anyone else know, I should be able to see the chat, but does anyone else know what else makes visible the invisible? Any ideas? Yeah. So Nikhil said it there. The sacraments. The sacraments are a visible sign of the invisible graces of God. So this is one way to know that our bodies are holy, in a theological sense rather than just a biological sense. So it means that we require our bodies to reveal something or anything about our inner self. Similarly, we require our bodies, as Iyerin said, we require our bodies to know anything and anyone.
So another thing we know about our body, and just as Helen mentioned there, the connection between sacraments, it also highlights the fact that we are holy. First of all, we know that from the very first book in the Bible, in the very first chapter, as it reveals, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. So if we are made in the image and likeness of God, we are holy, our bodies are holy. So another way you could actually say that is how God took on our human form. So when he came down to heaven as Jesus Christ, he took on our human form. that is another way we can prove that our bodies are holy. And in the next slide, we also know that God is not just holy, God is also love. So we are made to be loved and to love. The best example we have for that is how, as I said, Christ came into the world and he gave his own body for us. And he does that every single day for us at Mass. And that is agape, the love that Naveen mentioned last week, that it's sacrificial love. So as he sacrifices his love, as he gives his body freely to us, we are also called to give our bodies freely as a gift.
So just to reiterate, our bodies are holy and we need them to reveal anything about ourselves and to know anything about ourselves and about others. We are holy also because we are made in the image and likeness of God. We're God's children, and we are made in his image and likeness. And we are made to love and to be loved, to give ourselves as a gift to others. So our bodies are extremely important and they should be treated with the utmost care and dignity. So if our bodies are holy, and we are made in the image and likeness of God, and we are to give our bodies as a gift, then anything and everything that we do has a purpose.
So just as Helen was saying that our purpose is to give our bodies to love and to be loved, one way we are able to fulfill this purpose to freely love, to freely give and receive love is through our sexuality. So if you go to the next slide, again, to reiterate the fact that we are made by God, God who is love, who gives his body to us. So it is only natural that we also have this desire to give our bodies in love, to receive love, and to give love. So that goes saying that a desire for union, a desire for intimacy is only natural because we are God's children and God has been loving us since forever.
So the way in which we express intimacy, one way in which we express our intimacy is through sex. Now, the purpose of sex is for procreation, which means being open to life and also the bringing up of children. And also another purpose for sex is union. So by union, we mean being intimate with your spouse, your husband or wife. And that union leads to pleasure, which again, completely natural. And this pleasure releases hormones, which I'll let Iyerin explain.
Yeah, guys, so the hormones released when you experience pleasure are most of the times called happy hormones. So they're basically neurochemicals called oxytocin and vasopressin, and they're released slowly during lovemaking and in large quantities during orgasm, neurologically bonding a person's memories to the source of the sexual pleasure. So it works towards building the intimacy between the couple that are engaging in the sexual act. So that's how you build intimacy and grow more towards each other. Yeah.
So again, so the purpose of sex, or the nature of sex, is for procreation and union. Again, procreation meaning an easy way to remember procreation and union is babies and bonding, basically. So this is the nature of sex, and it's meant to be in the context of marriage. At their wedding, a husband and wife, they make vows to be faithful, fruitful, free, and complete towards each other. And each time they engage in sex, they renew these vows. So sex is meant to be faithful, and it's only faithful in marriage. Outside of marriage, there is no commitment. Sex is meant to be free in the sense that you don't hold back anything. Not just in a consensual manner, that's there, but also that you don't prevent life from happening. So from conception. So the use of like contraception or something is going against the nature of sex. Fruitful, if it's free can sex be fruitful. And through all of these 3 F's, sex is complete. And it's only in this way that it can serve towards the purpose of sex, which 1 is procreation and 2 is union. So again, sex is meant to be faithful, free, fruitful, and complete. And engaging in sex in any other manner will go against the nature of sex. So Irene, what does sex reveal about God?
Yeah, so just to reiterate on what Helen was speaking about, what really happens in sex is what is intended to happen is when the husband gives his love freely, faithfully, and completely to his wife, and the wife receives it and gives it back freely, faithfully, and completely. So if intimacy is practiced in this way, it has the potential to bear fruit, and most of the cases it is a baby, it is children. So this is where, in the sexual act, is where the man and woman become one flesh and they experience intimacy. So the emphasis there is on one flesh when they become one. Through the image, you're praying to Jesus. With the image is the symbol for Jesus, or the icon for Jesus. So similarly, when I say the sexual act or the marital act is an icon for the Trinity, that in itself shows that the sexual act is meant to be sacred. And hence, abusing the sexual act in any other way would not only be sinful, but can also be considered sacrilegious. So that's where we go into the next phase of the talk, where we talk about the sins against love. And Helen's going to take you there.
So not fulfilling your wedding vows, which again, just to reiterate, you should be faithful, free, fruitful, and total in your marriage. Not fulfilling those. Now, by fruitful, I just want to emphasize that fruitful by no manner does it mean that you have to end up having kids, because it so many couples are infertile and they can't produce kids. But it means being open to life and also being fruitful in the sense that you're growing in love for each other. Okay, so it's not just that, oh yeah, if I have sex with my husband, I need to have a baby out of this. That may or may not happen. It's that you're also fruitful in love towards each other. So not fulfilling your wedding vows goes against the nature of marriage, or the nature of sex, and it's wrong. So this could be the use of contraception, like I said, goes against the aspect of being free. It could be having sex before marriage, which lacks faithfulness, or it lacks commitment. And then it could be having sex with someone other than your spouse, which would be unfaithfulness. There's also the sin of being emotionally overly attached to someone, where it leads to lust. So the term for that is emotional unchastity, where your sexual desires for someone removes that person's I guess personhood. So you desire someone for your own sexual pleasure. So it's kind of like lust coming into the talk, into the conversation. And that in itself is wrong, because your lustful desires, your sexual desires, lack the unitive and procreative aspects of sex, or purpose of sex. But the main thing that we, Iyerin and I, want to talk about here is something that's been really affecting society in the past, I'd say like 20 years. It's the sins of masturbation and pornography. So this is like extremely common nowadays. Porn is so easily accessible, and masturbation is a common practice. So we wanted to talk about that. Now, masturbation, for anyone who doesn't know, so the CCC defines it as the deliberate stimulation of the genital organs in order to get sexual pleasure. So the deliberate stimulation of the genital organs in order to get pleasure. It is a selfish act. You are taking pleasure. You're not giving. Remember, we are made to love and to be loved, to receive and to give love. Masturbation is just an act of taking. It's a very selfish act, and it lacks both the unitive and procreative aspects of sex. So it violates the nature of sex, and that's simply why it's wrong. You are not trying, you're not engaging in sex with your partner. You are doing it by yourself, and it's purely for your own pleasure. Again, it's a selfish act. Now, Iyerin will talk about pornography.
Yeah, guys, so just as Helen was speaking to you about masturbation, similarly, porn or watching porn is also wrong, because while you're watching porn, you're using the other person, or the person you see, as a stimulus to experience pleasure. So the purpose of porn is to seek pleasure. Sorry, I rephrase. It's to take pleasure, because you're not giving anything. So when you desire the stimulus offered by the person you see on the screen in the images or the visuals, instead of desiring the person, which was the original intent of sex, because it bonds you with the person you were having sex with, it is to create intimacy. So instead of desiring the person, instead of loving the person, you're just, your business is just with the visuals offered to you. You're just concerned about your pleasure. So it warps the idea of intimacy. And instead of making you a lover, which was the original intent of the sexual act, it throws you in intimacy and helps you love more. You're basically reduced to a consumer. So you're not a lover, you're becoming a consumer when you're engaging in pornography. So by being stimulated by pornography or by masturbating to it, just I was saying about the happy hormones, which actually help you in intimacy, they're also released when you seek pleasure from pornography or by masturbation. So those kind of happy hormones are released. That's where you get the pleasure from, right? But again, they're actually doing their job of bonding. So when you are watching something, you're basically bonding to the images you see because those chemicals are activated. So that's one thing that kind of explains why people who engage in pornography have the tendency to come back to it, because those happy hormones have been released in your brain and you want to keep coming back for it. There is this sense of attachment. The intimacy is between the visuals you see, and just the way I'm speaking about it seems very disordered, and that's exactly why it is disordered. And the kind of fact I was talking about, how are you going to bond with it? That's something that keeps you coming back to it, and if not monitored, if not controlled, that can grow into addiction. And
And by addiction, I think we have to kind of emphasize that addiction is not purely saying, okay, yeah, you watch porn this many times in a week or a month, or you masturbate this many times in a day or a week or a month. There's no number for it. It's not like this much is bad for you. After this first point, you are addicted. It's when you can't stop yourself from the act, whether it be masturbating, whether it be watching porn. You can't stop yourself or say no to it. You become sort of like numb to it, that you forget that, okay, yeah, I can't stop myself, I can't say no. And it's when you try to say no that you feel like it's so difficult. This is the same for any addiction, whether it be sugar, whether it be, the guys doing Nineveh, or guys and girls doing Nineveh and Exodus. They'd be able to tell you it's with anything, social media, sugar, porn, masturbation. It's all, when you're addicted to it, you're unable to stop yourself. You find it difficult to say no. So, like I said, in today's world, it's so easy for you to be addicted to this. Porn is so easily accessible on the internet. I think, before you'd have to at least like go and buy magazines, and there'd be the shame of that, or you'd have to buy CDs or subscribe. There was a process to it, but now you just go online, you type in a website, it's there. Masturbation is some like socially, it's kind of like promoted, but we've explained why it's not. It's going against the nature of sex, of how our bodies are meant to be used.
Yeah, so, just to add there, many of the places where you see it should, or like you'd see that it's promoted because it releases happy hormones. It relieves you of stress. But again, as I said, there's a purpose, there's a context in which, because it works. There's two ways in which it works. It kind of bonds you to the visuals you see as well. And that's where the negative aspect comes into.
Yeah. So Iyerin and myself, we came up with the 5R system, on how you can kind of like help yourself, even help others that are struggling with sexual sins. Number one, and this is like the first step, is to realize that something is wrong. If you don't, if you can't convince yourself that, okay, yeah, this is wrong, then it's going to be extremely hard for you to try stop something. So educate yourself, read up on it. There's so many sources out there, and we've actually on the next slide we've linked, or we've listed out some resources for you guys to look through and see, and just even just read up on and learn about this yourselves, so that you're able to recognize, okay, yeah, this is wrong. This is not the way my body is supposed to be used. This is not the way I should be treating other people's bodies. The next step would be to recognize triggers. By that I mean, what ends up happening, or what situation or environment leads you to that state of sin. what ends up with you watching porn? What ends up with you masturbating? Is it, like for men and women, it can be different. But like things that they have in common are like stressful situations. So a lot of stress can lead you to this. So what can you do to avoid that stress or release that stress in some other manner? And the opposite of stress, a complete lack of stress and being absolutely bored can lead to this. And also, I think one of the main ones would be like watching something, unexpectedly, like this erotic scene appears in a TV show that you're watching, or a music video that you're watching, and the scene pops up, you're not expecting it, and that's a trigger. But for women, I think Iyerin, do you want to elaborate on?
Most of the triggers that Helen talked about are external triggers, like you see something, or like you're bored, so you feel like getting some pleasure from somewhere else. But just talking about women out there, we all know, because of our cycles, there's a time of the month where we are ovulating, and we definitely do feel the need for union. The desire for union is it's at peak because you're fertile, and that's your body's natural cycle, and that's the way it's meant to be as well. So the trigger is that in itself could be a trigger, and the best way to do is to identify it, and then the energy you feel around that time, just to use it in other ways, like exercising, going talking to people, doing activities that kind of engage your mind, and they engage your energy, that releases your energy as well, so that you don't rely on watching porn or masturbating to get that pleasure, to get that fulfillment, because that is not the only source of fulfillment, and that definitely shouldn't be the only source of fulfillment, to kind of release that energy during your fertile period.
And something else, I think one of the main things that we always say is to pray about it. Prayer is your conversation with God. I always say this. It's a conversation with God. You're supposed to let God know of your struggles. Talk to him about your struggles. Talk to him about your burdens. Remember that God took the human form. He knows, he has been tempted. He knows what temptations we go through. He knows our struggles. He knows that we are human. He's been our human self. Ask him for help. Ask him for guidance. Ask for the Holy Spirit to give you that strength to overcome this burden. Having a regular prayer life. This is, saying once, oh, God, can you help me out here? You need to have that constant conversation with God. It's not just it's not going to suddenly stop. You're not going to suddenly just be able to, like, some of you maybe, but you could end up having to struggle with this a lot, and you need God by your side, so that anytime you do fall, anytime you kind of you let go of yourself, okay, I can go to confession, which is our fifth one. I realize that I've missed out on the third point completely, but
just as Helen said, like, relying on Jesus Christ, because he knows the struggles we go through, and he's one of the people out there, the God out there, who can definitely help you, because he's a loving father. Like, no father is going to look at a child calling for help and turn a blind eye. So if you pray with that utmost faith, it is definitely going to work. But as Helen said, it mightn't always work. It's not like you pray and then suddenly you stop. for people, as Helen said, it might work. But for other people, it might be having an accountability partner, or to share this experience with somebody else, to openly let them know that you're struggling with this, and to reach out to them whenever you're in temptation, like when you're facing temptation. You don't have to like disclose the full story with them. Like you could just pick up your phone, call them, just say that to yourself, like whenever I feel this, I'm going to do this, so that you kind of have that kind of system to get out, to escape that feeling, escape that temptation. So like reaching out to somebody you trust, again, that is an important point, is so kind of simple, because there's so many people around you. I know most of our fears would be like, how am I going to disclose this to somebody? They're going to judge me. But as Jesus tells us, there's nobody out there who can actually judge you but your God. And you're reaching out to them to, you're being vulnerable to them. And there itself, you're making vulnerable yourself to them, hoping that they could help. And that's, again, like doing your actions here and also praying. So that's like a combination you could try. And we here are open, anybody wants to come to talk to us. And I'm sure like the men out here are also, free to listen to you guys. As I said, you don't have to like, ring them up and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. You can if you want to, but just getting into the habit of going to somebody, or even like doing something like staying away from that source of pleasure would also help. Yeah.
Having a spiritual director, someone that's there to guide you through your whole spiritual life, they could give you great guidance on your struggles with this, or they could keep you accountable. Speaking of accountability, there is a plugin. So the software that you can use, it's called Covenant Eyes. So if any of you watched Matt Fradd, I'm sure he goes on and on about it in his podcast. But Covenant Eyes is basically a way for you to keep accountable for your screen time. So, if say I'm going on to a porn website, my accountability partner will be immediately notified of that, So that's a good system to have if you want to keep yourself accountable for this. But also to remember that if you are using Covenant Eyes, make sure your accountability partner isn't already struggling with this, isn't already struggling with porn or masturbation, because there's a high chance, it's very likely that when you go and you're reaching out to someone you trust, say a friend, there's a high chance that they could also be struggling with this, and so to make sure that you don't tempt them, or you don't cause a temptation for them. So if you are using Covenant Eyes, to have an accountability partner that has overcome this burden or isn't struggling with this. But when you do fall, if you do fall, to know that God is there to forgive you. Go to confession as quickly as possible, as soon as possible. I know at this time confessions might not be like as easily available, but reach out to a priest. If you know a priest, or someone that knows a priest, get their phone number, see if they're available for confession. If they're not, to do a regular examination of conscience, and to know that, okay, yeah, when confession is available, I will go to confession. I'll take that opportunity, because God's always there to forgive us, to welcome us back, to give us another chance. So use that. Something we wanted to mention was that I don't know who was saying this, but they said porn and masturbation they're symptoms of a deeper desire they're symptoms of a deeper desire in our hearts. So this desire is a desire for intimacy, for union. And that's there because God placed it. But it's how we use that desire. Are we using it for good or for evil? Are we using it in the nature that it's supposed to be used or not?
Just to add to that as well, this as Helen was saying, the desire for union. Everybody feels that, as Helen said, because it's placed there by God. But we should know that at the end of our lives, we are all called to go back into heaven, to be united with our Christ, with our Lord. So that itself is, a thing that we could all look forward to. So that's just to put that in there as well.
So these are some of the resources available. Now, I'm sure there might be people here who'd want to add to this list, but we might be able to like release these resources. But if anyone does want them, you can reach out to any of us. Theology of the Body was written by Pope John Paul II. So so Christopher West does so many talks about this book, which you can find online as well. So if you can't read through the book itself, you can watch his videos. Matt Fradd, again, he's a great activist of anti-porn. I think that's a right way to phrase it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, he is anti-porn, and just to clarify, he's not anti-sex. So it is a really good book to read. It isn't a religious book, if you say to say so. It is just it gives you both sides and tells you, like, it exposes basically, as the title says, the reality behind pornography. You might think like, oh, it mightn't be all women who are forced to do it, women who are freely doing it, men who are freely doing it, but it exposes the reality behind it, and it kind of presents its case in a very unbiased way. So yeah, that kind of clarify why it is wrong.
And I've attached a link to a video there, which I see that is pointless because you guys can't click on the link, but it's basically a video by Father Mike Schmitz, again summarizing the theology of the body in about like 10 minutes, kind of showing us, the purpose of our bodies, why we have bodies, why, what are we supposed to do with our bodies. So, when you watch through these videos and other videos, you'll see, you'll be able to see how we made the points that we made as well. Now, women are usually kind of left out of the talk of porn and masturbation. So Kelsey Scott, she wrote a book specifically for this, to address this issue. So for any women, you want to learn more about this, or you're struggling with this, and you're wondering how to go about this, her book Uncompromising Purity is a great read for that. But also, if you can't buy that book, she also has videos on YouTube with Jason Everett. So just watch those videos of the talks that she gives. The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis, and again, that's number 6 is the link for Covenant Eyes for you and your accountability partner. So that is it. Yeah, I think we finished at a good time. But now I'll leave it to Nikhil.
Thanks very much, Helen and Iyerin. It's a very important topic, and it's something that's a rampant in our culture. So if this is something of a problem for you, know that God loves you with a lot of love and a lot of tenderness. And Iyerin and Helen both mentioned the kind of huge impact the hormones have on us. So to a certain extent, it's kind of a force of habit that drags us deeper into back and back again into it. It can lead to a lot of loneliness, a lot of guilt and shame. And if this hits home to you, if this hits close to your heart, if this is something you can relate to, know that Jesus himself said that it's the sick who need the physician, not the healthy. And it is for you and me that, Jesus came. So we all bear crosses. We all have our struggles. Maybe this is your particular cross in life. So don't give up hope. When you fall, just get back up and keep going.